If you could see how a narcissist reacts when they realize you're too strong for them, you'd see something they work their whole lives to hide. Fear. Not the kind that shows up in trembling hands or shaky voices. No. It's deeper. It's the kind that lives in their gut, the kind that makes them grind their teeth at night, wondering how the hell they lost control. Because narcissists survive on one thing, power. Power over your emotions. Power over your reactions. Power over how you see yourself. They live to pull strings, to push buttons, to watch you dance to their chaos. But what happens when you stop dancing? What happens when you stare them down, unshaken, unmovable, stronger than the storm they're trying to whip up? That's when the mask cracks. That's when their illusion of superiority crumbles. Because strength, real strength, shows them up for what they are, frauds. And listen, it's not about shouting louder than them or playing their twisted games better. No. Your strength is in knowing. It's in not bending. It's in standing tall, calm, collected, while they flail and panic. That's what terrifies them. Because deep down, they know, once you've seen through the act, once you're too strong to control, they're finished. Firstly, the cracked mask. Every narcissist wears a mask. Polished, charming, convincing. They spend years perfecting it. But strength, your strength, is the heat that makes that mask slip. And when it does, they're exposed. See, their entire game depends on you buying the performance. The smiles, the false humility, the fake superiority. It only works if you believe it. But when you stand strong, when you look them in the eye and don't flinch, it rattles them. Because you're not reacting the way they need you to. And that's when cracks start forming. The truth leaks out. The insecurity, the desperation, the panic. It's ugly and they know it. That's why they scramble to cover it up. More lies, more manipulation, more theatrics. But the harder they try, the clearer it becomes. Think of Shakespeare. The lady doth protest too much, methinks. The louder they insist they're in control, the more obvious it is they're not. And that's the beauty of it. You don't have to fight. You just have to stand strong. Your very presence, your calm defiance, forces their mask to fall. And once it slips, they can't ever put it back on the same way again. That's when they know you see them. And that's when you win. Secondly, the broken leash. Control, that's the oxygen of a narcissist. They live to pull your strings like a puppeteer jerking a wooden doll. Push this button, you react. Say this line, you cry. Twist this guilt, you fold. That's their drug. But when you get strong enough to cut the strings, they choke. They can't breathe. See, your strength makes their control useless. The leash they thought they had around your neck suddenly snaps. They can't tug you into arguments, can't bait you into defending yourself, can't keep you trapped in the endless loop of proving, apologizing, and explaining. And that terrifies them. Because once you've tasted freedom, you don't crawl back into chains. It's like what Frederick Douglass said, the moment a man ceases to be the property of another, he ceases to be a slave. That's exactly what happens when you refuse to play the puppet. The broken leash is more than rebellion, it's liberation. And for them, it's a death sentence. Because without control, they're nothing. Third, the mirror of inferiority. Strength has a funny way of making weakness show. When you stand tall, calm, confident, it's like holding a spotlight over a fraud. And narcissists can't stand that reflection. They thrive on comparison, but only when they're towering over you. The second you rise, the second you stop shrinking to fit their comfort, they start to shrivel. Because your strength highlights just how small they really are. Think of it like this. A candle looks bright until the sun comes out. Then suddenly, the candle's pathetic, almost invisible. That's exactly how they feel next to your resilience. And it burns them alive inside. Because deep down, they already know they're weak. They just spend their lives covering it up with noise, drama, and fake grandeur. But your strength, it strips away the disguise. That mirror of inferiority is merciless. And once they see it, they can't unsee it. Fourth, the silence that screams. Sometimes the strongest move isn't shouting back, it's saying nothing. And nothing rattles a narcissist more than your silence. They feed on drama like a leech feeds on blood. They want your tears, your fury, your endless explanations. That's the fuel that keeps their engine running. But when you don't give it, when you sit there, calm, collected, untouchable, it drives them insane. Because silence is loud. It screams, "You don't control me anymore." It screams, "Your chaos doesn't reach me." And that silence suffocates them because it cuts off their supply. Imagine a puppeteer yanking strings while the puppet just lies limp. No movement, no reaction. That's you. And that stillness is stronger than any punch you could throw. Don't confuse it with weakness. Silence is strategy. It's control. It's proof that you're not trapped in their circus anymore. And that quiet rebellion, that's the sound of their defeat. Fifth, the collapse of the illusion. A narcissist's entire empire is built on smoke and mirrors. They rely on confusion, sleight of hand, the grand illusion that they're bigger, better, smarter than they are. But illusions only work if the audience believes. And when you're strong enough to see through it, game over. Think about a magic trick. The first time, it amazes you. The second time, you start to notice the moves. But a third, you're rolling your eyes. That's exactly how their manipulation looks once you catch on. What once seemed powerful suddenly looks pathetic. And that's when the collapse happens. Because without the trick, they're just another desperate soul begging for attention. No mystery. No power. Just a fraud exposed under the spotlight. Your awareness is their nightmare. Because strength isn't about punching harder, it's about refusing to be fooled. And when you stop believing the act, the whole circus falls apart. Sixth, the fear of irrelevance. A king without subjects is just a man in a crown. And nothing terrifies a narcissist more than irrelevance. They need attention like lungs need air. Every performance, every lie, every manipulation, it's all designed to keep the spotlight fixed on them. But when you're strong enough to walk away, to stop watching, stop clapping, stop caring, the throne turns cold. Suddenly, they're not larger than life. They're small, ordinary, forgettable. And that burns more than any insult you could ever throw. Because in their twisted world, existence equals attention. Without your eyes on them, without your energy feeding them, they wither. They shrink into what they've always been but could never admit, irrelevant. That's why your independence shakes them to the core. It's not just losing you, it's losing their identity. Because without someone to rule, they're not a king. They're nobody. Seventh, the victory of freedom. The sweetest revenge isn't revenge, it's freedom. Walking away whole, healed, and untouchable. That's the knockout punch narcissists never see coming. See, they expect you to fight, to scream, to spend years tangled in their mess. Because fighting still means you're tied to them. Hatred still means you're feeding them. But freedom, indifference, that's the one thing they can't survive. When you build your life, your peace, your joy without them, it proves what they always feared. You were never theirs to begin with. And that realization cuts deeper than any words. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That's it. You don't stoop to their games. You don't crawl into their chaos. You rise. You thrive. You win by refusing to even play. And when you're free, when you're untouchable, when their name doesn't even raise your pulse anymore, that's when they're truly defeated. So let's cut through it. Narcissists don't fear your anger. They don't even fear your hate. What shakes them to their core is your strength. The moment they see the mask cracking, the leash snapping, the mirror of their weakness staring back, it's over. They can't handle your silence. They can't survive the collapse of their illusion. They choke on irrelevance the second you stop clapping for their circus. And what's left? Just a frightened fraud, panicking in the spotlight of truth. Your strength is the one thing they can't steal, can't fake, can't replace. Because it's yours. And the final blow, it's not rage. It's not revenge. It's freedom. You walking away whole, untouchable, thriving, while they're left with the void you leave behind. That's the victory. Not just surviving them, but rising above them. Living better. Living stronger. Living free. Now, if this message hit home, don't just scroll past. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that like button. Drop your story in the comments, and stick around for the next video. Because the more you know, the less power they'll ever have over you again.